The sun of the alien world hung low in the sky, casting long red shadows across the broken land. The air was thin, and every breath tasted of dust and metal. The human traveler walked slowly, his boots pressing into the cracked earth. He carried a pack on his back. Inside, food, water, and the tools that kept him alive in this strange place. It had been weeks since he had landed here. The colony had failed long ago, leaving ruins and silence. He was alone, or so he thought. Then it happened. The traveler paused near the remains of a fallen building. He set his pack down for just a moment. His eyes studied the horizon. For once the land felt calm. No storms, no rumbling machines, no dangerous creatures. He wiped the sweat from his brow. But in that quiet, something moved. From the corner of his eye, a shadow darted forward, fast, small, and desperate. Before he could react, the pack was gone. The traveler spun around. "Hey!" he shouted, his voice echoing across the ruins. His eyes locked onto a figure. It wasn't a soldier, nor a beast. It was something else. Thin arms, trembling legs, skin pale and almost glowing under the strange light. It was a child. The alien child clutched the pack close to his chest and ran. His small feet hit the ground hard, sending up clouds of dust. He stumbled once but did not stop. Hunger gave him speed. The traveler blinked in shock. Of all the dangers he had expected, this was not one of them. A starving child? Here in this wasteland? His first thought was anger. That pack carried his food, his water. Without it, survival would be harder. But as he looked closer, he saw more. The child's body was too thin. His arms looked like sticks. His ribs showed through his skin. His eyes, large, dark, and sunken, spoke of pain and fear. The traveler's anger cooled into confusion. Still, he could not just let the thief go. That pack was life itself. He picked up speed and followed. The chase began. The child slipped through broken walls and collapsed bridges, his small body moving like smoke through narrow cracks. The traveler followed, his larger frame slower but steady. His boots crunched against shards of glass. His breath came heavy, but his eyes never left the small figure ahead. The alien child looked back once, and in that moment, their eyes met. For just a second, the traveler saw it all: fear, desperation, and something else. Not hatred, not malice, just survival. That look burned into his mind. The child pushed on, his steps unsteady, yet he did not stop. The traveler felt a strange mix of emotions: anger, pity, curiosity. What kind of world was this, where even children had to steal to live? The ruins grew darker as the sun dipped lower. Long shadows stretched like claws, swallowing both pursuer and pursued. The traveler's heart pounded, not only from the chase but from the unknown. What was he walking into? Was this child alone, or was this a trap? Still, he could not turn back. Every step he took was louder than the child's quick movements. He felt clumsy in comparison, but stronger. The pack was heavy in those small arms. The child would not get far. But the child did not stop. He ran with a strange purpose, as if not only running away but also running toward something. The traveler noticed this. The child wasn't just escaping. He was leading. The thought struck him hard. Where was the child going? Who or what was waiting there? The ruins opened into a broken street, lined with the skeletons of buildings. The traveler slowed. The child disappeared into the shadows of a collapsed structure ahead. The traveler stopped, chest rising and falling with each breath. He wiped the sweat from his brow and listened. Silence. Only the sound of his own heartbeat filled the air. He stepped forward, cautious now. His boots scraped against stone. The entrance was dark, almost like a mouth ready to swallow him whole. He hesitated. Then he remembered the child's eyes, so empty, so hungry. The image stayed with him. He could not walk away. With slow steps, he entered the shadows. The air grew cooler inside. His eyes adjusted to the dim light filtering through broken walls. Dust floated like tiny stars in the still air. And then he heard it. A soft sound. A cough. Weak, shallow, and painful. The traveler froze. His heart skipped a beat. That was no child's cough. That was the sound of someone older, someone sick. He stepped closer, every sense alert. His eyes scanned the dark corners, and then he saw movement. The child was kneeling beside something, or someone. The traveler's breath caught in his throat. There, lying on the ground, was a figure. Thin, fragile, and trembling. The alien mother. The child placed the stolen pack beside her, his small hands shaking as he tried to open it. He whispered something in a language the traveler did not understand. The tone was soft, filled with care and fear. The traveler's chest tightened. The theft was no act of greed. It was an act of love, and with that single realization, everything changed. The ruins were silent, but silence on this world was never safe. The traveler stood at the edge of the broken building, staring into the shadows where the alien child had vanished. His breath was heavy, his heart loud inside his chest. Somewhere deep inside, instinct told him to turn back, to forget the pack, to walk away from this strange place. But instinct was not enough. Survival demanded he recover what was his. With slow steps, he entered. The floor groaned beneath his boots. Fragments of walls leaned at dangerous angles, and loose stones shifted underfoot. Light filtered through cracks above, slicing the darkness into pale beams. Dust hung in the air, sparkling like faint stars. Then, a flicker of movement. The traveler's eyes snapped forward. In the corner of the ruin, the child crouched low, clutching the pack. His breathing was fast, uneven, his chest rising and falling as if each breath was a battle. His large eyes glowed faintly, catching the little light that entered. For a moment, neither moved. The traveler's hand twitched near his belt, where a tool blade hung. Not to attack, but to be ready. He could not predict the alien child. Was he dangerous, or only desperate? Then, without warning, the child darted deeper into the ruin. "Stop!" the traveler shouted, his voice echoing across the empty chamber. His legs carried him forward, faster this time, the chase pulling him deeper into darkness. The child slipped through a crack in the wall, barely wide enough for a human arm. The traveler had to shoulder through broken stone, dust falling over his shoulders as he forced his way after him. The narrow passage opened into another chamber, darker, colder. Shapes of collapsed beams and twisted metal filled the space like the skeletons of giants. The traveler's eyes scanned quickly, and there, he caught sight of a thin shadow darting up a pile of rubble. The child moved like a ghost, climbing with quick, frantic hands, the pack dragging behind him. The traveler climbed after him. Stones shifted under his weight, sliding down with sharp cracks. Every step was heavier, louder than the child's quick leaps. Still he pressed on. The chase became a rhythm, the child leaping ahead, the traveler close behind. The ruins seemed endless, like a labyrinth built from broken history. Once, the child looked back. Their eyes met again. The child's gaze was sharp, filled with fear, but also something deeper, a strange determination. He wasn't only running away, he was leading somewhere. That thought chilled the traveler. Was this a trap? He slowed his pace for a moment, listening carefully. But no other footsteps echoed. No whispers, no signs of an ambush. Only the sound of the child's breath, quick and ragged. The traveler pressed on. The chase carried them through shattered hallways, down narrow stairs eaten by rust, and across floors where each step risked collapse. The alien child seemed to know the path by heart, as if he had run it many times before. At last, the ruins opened into a long corridor. The walls bore faded marks, symbols carved long ago, almost erased by time. The traveler's eyes lingered on them for only a second. He had no time for answers now. The child reached the end of the corridor and stopped. For the first time, he did not keep running. He stood before a broken archway, clutching the pack, his thin shoulders shaking. The traveler slowed, cautious, his body tense. This was the moment. The child's head turned slightly, just enough for the traveler to see his face. There was no hatred in his eyes, no triumph, only exhaustion. And then the child stepped through the archway. The traveler followed. On the other side, the world changed. The air grew colder, filled with the faint smell of damp stone. The space was wider, a hollow chamber hidden beneath the ruins. Shafts of dim light pierced through cracks in the ceiling, revealing shapes on the ground. The traveler's heart stopped. Figures, more than one, fragile forms lying against the walls, their bodies thin, weak, unmoving. Some were so still they might have been stone. Others shifted faintly with shallow, broken breaths, and in the center of them all lay the mother. Her body trembled with each breath. Her skin was pale, stretched thin across her bones, her eyes half opened but unfocused. She looked not at the traveler, but at the child. The alien boy dropped the pack beside her, his small hands fumbling to open it. He pulled out food and water with desperation, pushing it toward her lips, whispering words the traveler did not understand. The traveler stood frozen at the edge of the chamber. The truth hit him harder than any weapon. This was no trap, no enemy, no ambush. The child had stolen not for himself, but for his people, for his mother, for those who had nothing left. The traveler's eyes lingered on the frail forms scattered across the stone floor. Hunger had made them shadows of life, and yet in the child's trembling hands there was hope. The chamber was quiet, too quiet. The only sound was the faint, broken breathing of the weak. The traveler stood at the edge, his shadow stretching across the stone floor. His eyes moved slowly, adjusting to the dim light. What he saw made his chest tighten. The child knelt beside the mother. His small hands trembled as he held out food, pressing it against her lips. She was too weak to eat, too weak even to lift her head. Her skin was pale, her eyes heavy, her body thin like paper ready to tear. The traveler had seen hunger before. He had seen sickness. But this was more than suffering. This was the edge of life itself. The mother coughed, a dry, hollow sound that echoed through the chamber. The boy whispered to her, his voice soft, his words a language the traveler could not understand. But the meaning was clear. His tone carried love, fear, and desperation. The traveler's throat felt dry. His first instinct was to step back. This was not his fight. He could walk away. He could take his pack and leave. That would be the smart choice. That would be survival. But his feet did not move. Something stronger held him in place. His eyes scanned the chamber again. He saw others, frail figures along the walls. Some old, some young, all broken by hunger. Their eyes flickered open when they sensed him. Fear filled their gaze. Fear of him. The traveler raised his hands slowly, showing he meant no harm. Still, their eyes did not soften. They had been hunted before. They expected cruelty. The child looked up then. His large eyes met the traveler's, shining in the half-light. They were filled with tears, but also with defiance. He wrapped one arm around his mother as if to shield her. His small body shook, but he did not move aside. The traveler swallowed hard. Here it was. The truth. The theft was never about greed. It was about survival. The boy had risked everything, not for himself, but for her. The traveler felt his anger fade completely. In its place came something else. Shame. Shame that he had chased the boy like a criminal. Shame that he had seen only a thief, not a son fighting for his mother's life. Slowly, carefully, he stepped forward. His boots scraped softly against the stone. The figures along the wall shifted uneasily, weak hands clutching each other. Their eyes warned him. One wrong move, and they would see him as the enemy. He knelt a short distance away, lowering himself so he would not tower over them. He set his hands on the floor, palms open. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said softly. His words were human, and he knew they might not understand. But his tone was calm, steady, gentle. Sometimes tone was stronger than language. The child tilted his head, still clutching the pack. He did not reply. His chest rose and fell quickly, his breath shaky. But he did not run. The traveler slowly reached to his belt and pulled out a small container. Water. He held it up, tilting it gently to show what it was. The mother's dry lips parted slightly at the sight. The boy's eyes widened, torn between fear and hope. The traveler set the container on the ground and pushed it forward across the stone. No sudden moves, no threats. Just an offering. The boy hesitated. His small hand hovered, shaking. Then finally he grabbed it. He brought it to his mother's lips. She drank just a little, but enough to ease her throat. A faint sigh escaped her, almost like relief. The boy looked back at the traveler, eyes shining with something new. Not trust, not yet, but not pure fear either. Something between. The traveler's chest grew heavy. He could feel the weight of the moment pressing on him. This was more than survival now. This was a choice. He could still leave, take his pack and walk away. Pretend this never happened. No one would know. But he would know. And so he stayed. The silence of the chamber grew softer now. The frail figures still watched him, but their eyes no longer burned with only fear. Some carried a flicker of hope, fragile but real. The traveler reached into his pack once more, pulling out another ration bar. He broke it in half and placed it on the ground. Again he pushed it forward. The child grabbed it quickly, his small hands greedy with hunger. He tore a piece and pushed it into his mother's mouth before eating the rest himself. His eyes closed as the food touched his tongue. For a moment he looked almost human. Just a child, hungry and scared, finally tasting relief. The traveler leaned back against the cold wall. His body ached from the chase, his mind heavy with questions. Who were these people? How long had they been here? Why had no one helped them? But the answers did not matter now. What mattered was the truth he could no longer ignore. The universe was cruel, but here, in the dark ruins, kindness was the one weapon left. The discovery was no longer about what he had found. It was about what he would do with it. The chamber was cold, yet sweat ran down the traveler's back. He sat against the wall, his eyes locked on the frail mother and the boy who clung to her. The boy had finished half of the ration bar, saving every crumb. He did not eat quickly, though his hunger was sharp. He broke each piece small, pressing one into his mother's mouth before he took one for himself. His eyes never left her, as if fearing she might slip away the moment he looked aside. The traveler watched silently. A war was happening inside him. His pack was lighter now. Every ration he gave away meant less for himself. Less food, less water, less chance of surviving the long days ahead. On this dead world, supplies were life. He had no allies, no ship to restock, no safe base to return to. He had only what he carried, and now he was giving it away. He clenched his fists. Foolish, he told himself. This isn't your fight. These aren't your people. If you stay, you risk everything. His eyes moved to the shadows along the walls. The other figures lay in silence, some barely breathing. If he fed one child and one mother, what about the rest? Could he save them all? He knew the answer. No. Not with what little he carried. The cruel part of his mind whispered, "Take your pack back. Walk away before you lose everything." But his heart remembered the boy's eyes. The fear, the hunger, the love in the way he shielded his mother with his small, weak arms. It was not courage that kept the boy alive. It was devotion, and devotion had made him steel. The traveler rubbed his face with tired hands. His whole life he had been told the same rule. Survive first, care later. But here, survival and care were tangled. The boy's voice broke the silence. It was soft, strange, filled with sounds the traveler did not understand. He spoke to his mother, not to him. The traveler didn't need the words. He felt the meaning. A child's promise, a child's plea. The traveler's chest tightened. He stood up slowly, his boots heavy against the stone. The boy's head snapped toward him, eyes wide. His body tensed, as if ready to shield his mother again. The traveler lifted his hands. "I won't hurt you," he said. His voice was calm, almost gentle, though he knew they could not understand. Still, tone mattered. The boy's shoulders lowered slightly. Not trust, but less fear. The traveler turned, walked back toward the archway he had entered through. His steps echoed. The boy's breath caught, sharp with panic. The traveler paused at the doorway. For a moment he imagined himself walking out, back into the ruins. He saw himself carrying his pack, his supplies, his hope of survival. He saw the boy behind him, watching him go, eyes wide with betrayal. He saw the mother fading, her breath slowing, her child crying in silence. He shut his eyes. The image cut deeper than any blade. His hand tightened around the strap of his pack. His mind screamed, "You cannot save them all!" But another voice whispered, "Maybe you don't need to save them all. Maybe saving one is enough." The traveler turned back. His boots carried him toward the boy and mother again. The boy blinked in surprise. His small body stiffened as the traveler knelt once more. Slowly, carefully, the human opened his pack. Inside were sealed rations, a small medical kit, and containers of water. His entire chance of survival. He pulled out another ration bar and placed it on the ground. Then a packet of water. Then, after a long pause, the small vial of medicine he had kept for emergencies. The boy's eyes widened. His mouth parted, but no words came. The traveler pushed the items forward. "For her," he said softly. The mother stirred weakly, her eyes fluttering open. For the first time they focused on him. Her gaze was heavy, filled with pain, but behind it was something else. Gratitude. The boy grabbed the supplies with shaking hands. He pressed the food to his mother's lips, then the water. When he opened the vial, his hands trembled so much he nearly spilled it. But he managed, pouring the liquid carefully into her mouth. The chamber was silent, but the air felt different now. Lighter. The figures along the wall still watched, but their eyes had shifted. Not just fear, not just hopelessness, something else. A spark. The traveler leaned back, exhaling hard. He knew what he had done. He had chosen the harder path, the dangerous one. Helping them meant risk. Others might come. Soldiers, scavengers, hunters. If they discovered him here, aiding the weak, he would be marked as an enemy too. But as he watched the boy smile faintly for the first time, his small hand clutching his mother's, the traveler felt something stir in his chest. It was not regret. It was purpose. For the first time in weeks, he did not feel alone. The air inside the chamber was heavy, but something had shifted. The boy no longer looked at the traveler with pure fear. His eyes still carried caution, but also something new. Something fragile. Hope. The mother rested now, her breathing slow but steadier than before. The water and medicine had given her a little strength. Her chest rose and fell with less struggle, though her body was still weak, her hands trembling as they reached for her child. The boy held her hand tightly. His small fingers wrapped around hers as if he could anchor her to life itself. He whispered soft words in his strange language, words that trembled with love. The traveler watched in silence, leaning against the stone wall. His own chest felt tight. He had seen battles, storms, and death, but nothing had moved him like this. A child's quiet devotion. He had given them food and medicine. But what came next? Supplies would run out. Time would run out. And yet he could not bring himself to leave. The boy looked up at him suddenly. Their eyes met again. For a moment the chamber felt smaller, as if everything else had faded away. The boy's lips moved. He spoke a single word. It was broken, heavy with accent, but clear enough. "Human." The traveler froze. His heart skipped. The boy knew the word. Not much, but enough to name him. Enough to bridge the silence between them. The traveler gave a small nod. "Yes, human?" He touched his chest. "Human." The boy's eyes widened. Then slowly he touched his own chest. "Kyle." The traveler repeated it softly. "Kyle." The boy's thin lips curved just slightly. It was not a smile, not yet. But it was something close. The bond had begun. The traveler shifted closer, careful not to startle him. He pulled a small device from his pack, a data slate with a glowing screen. It was cracked, battered from weeks of travel, but still worked. He tapped the surface and drew a simple shape. A circle with lines. The sun. Kyle tilted his head, curiosity flickering in his tired eyes. Slowly, with shaking hands, he reached out and touched the screen. He dragged a line across it, rough but clear. A symbol. Not human. Something alien, curved and sharp, yet filled with meaning. The traveler studied it. He did not understand the language, but he understood the moment. This was not just survival. This was connection. Kyle looked at him as if waiting for approval. The traveler nodded. "Good." His voice was soft, almost gentle. The boy gave the smallest laugh, a sound so weak it nearly broke the traveler's heart. But then the sound of coughing filled the chamber again. The mother stirred, her body curling with pain. Cale rushed back to her side, pressing the water to her lips. His small hands shook as he tried to comfort her. The traveler felt the weight of reality return. The mother was still dying. The others along the walls were still weak, too far gone. Food, medicine, kindness. They might not be enough. And yet, Cale fought on. The traveler's eyes softened. He had been trained to see strength in warriors, in soldiers, in weapons. But here, strength looked different. It looked like a starving child refusing to give up on his mother. The boy turned to him again. This time he pointed at the traveler's chest. Human. Then he pointed at his mother, whispering something in his own tongue. The traveler leaned forward, listening. The word repeated softly. Aris. The name of his mother. Aris, the traveler repeated. Kyle nodded quickly, as if glad the human understood. He squeezed his mother's hand again, whispering her name over and over, as if the sound alone could keep her alive. The traveler's chest grew heavy. Names had power. A name meant connection. A name meant responsibility. He was no longer just a witness. He was part of this story now. The bond grew stronger. Hours passed in silence. The traveler shared more food, though it pained him to watch his supplies vanish. Kyle shared symbols on the screen, drawings of his people, tall structures reaching into the sky, creatures with wings, rivers glowing with strange light. He spoke in broken words, fragments of memory. The traveler listened even when he could not understand. Every sound mattered, every gesture mattered, but just as the bond deepened, the world outside reminded them it was not safe. The ground trembled faintly. Distant echoes rolled through the ruins above. Metal against stone, heavy footsteps, or perhaps machines. The sound carried danger, sharp and cold. Kel stiffened. His eyes darted toward the ceiling, his small body trembling. The others in the chamber stirred weakly, fear in their eyes. The traveler frowned, standing tall. He placed a hand on the hilt of his tool blade. Danger was near. Cale grabbed his arm suddenly, his small fingers clutching tight. His eyes begged, his voice whispering one word in his broken tongue. Hide. The bond had been sealed. The child trusted him, not just with food, not just with medicine, but with survival itself. The traveler looked toward the dark archway, then back at the boy and his mother. His choice had already been made. He would not leave them. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The chamber grew colder. The sound of distant metal echoed through the ruins above, slow, heavy, deliberate. Not random noise, not the wind. Something alive, something searching. The traveler froze, every muscle tight. He had heard that rhythm before. Boots on stone, machines grinding, patrols moving through abandoned worlds. Whoever they were, they did not come for peace. Cale clutched his mother's hand tighter. His wide eyes flickered to the ceiling, then back to the traveler. His small body trembled, but his voice broke the silence with one single urgent word. Hide. The traveler knelt quickly beside him. His voice was low, steady, though inside his chest his heart was pounding. How many? He whispered, though he knew the boy might not understand. Cale did not answer with words. Instead, he raised 3 trembling fingers, then 4. His eyes burned with fear. 7. The traveler cursed under his breath. 7 meant a full patrol. Armed, trained, dangerous. The mother stirred faintly, coughing, her breath sharp and shallow. Cale leaned close, whispering her name. Aris, Aris, trying to keep her calm. The traveler scanned the chamber. There was only one exit. The same broken archway he had entered. If the patrol came this way, they would find them trapped. The figures along the walls began to shift nervously, weak hands clutching one another. Even in their state, they understood the sound. Death was near. The traveler's hand moved to his pack. Inside, he had only a few supplies left, and one small weapon. A charge blade. Its energy weak, but still sharp enough to cut through steel if used well. Against 7? It was little more than a knife against thunder. The footsteps grew louder. Dust shook loose from the ceiling, falling like snow. The traveler turned back to Cale. "Quiet," he whispered, pressing a finger to his lips. The boy nodded quickly, pulling his mother closer, shielding her small frame with his own body. For a moment, the chamber was filled with silence and breath. Then, light. A beam of harsh white cut through the cracks in the wall above, sweeping across the chamber. Dust glowed in its path. The patrol was close. The traveler's chest tightened. He moved quickly now, crawling to the far side of the chamber where the shadows were deepest. He motioned for Cale to follow, but the boy shook his head. He would not leave his mother. The traveler clenched his jaw. Brave child, foolish child. The footsteps stopped. Silence again, heavier than before. Then a voice, cold and sharp, echoed through the ruins. Not human, not alien, but mechanical, translated by a machine that turned orders into something universal. Search. The ruins groaned with the sound of armored boots. The patrol was inside. The traveler's eyes darted around the chamber. He could fight, but he could not win. He could run, but the boy and his mother would be left behind. Every path carried risk. Every choice carried weight. He glanced at Cale again. The boy's small eyes were locked on him, pleading. He did not speak, but his look carried a single message. Don't leave us. The traveler felt the weight of it crush him. He had lived his whole life by one rule: survive first. But now survival meant betrayal. The first beam of light pierced the chamber through the archway. A soldier stepped inside. His armor was heavy, his visor glowing faint blue. Behind him more shadows moved. 7. The traveler pressed his back against the wall, his breath slow, his blade in his hand. He could hear his own heartbeat louder than the soldier's boots. The lead soldier's voice came again. Scan for life. Eliminate threats. A low hum filled the chamber as scanners activated, sweeping the air with invisible light. The weak aliens along the walls flinched, their bodies curling tighter. They had no strength to fight, no hope to resist. The traveler's grip tightened on the blade. He knew what would happen. The patrol would find them. The child, the mother, the others. They would not be spared. To the patrol, weakness was not life. Weakness was waste, and he would be marked as one of them. His throat was dry, but his mind was clear now. He had already made his choice. The traveler stepped out of the shadows. The soldiers froze, their visors locking on him. One raised a weapon, its barrel glowing. The leader tilted his head slightly, voice calm. Human. Alone? The traveler's blade hummed softly in his hand. His voice was steady, though his heart thundered. No, not alone. Behind him, Cale's eyes widened. He clutched his mother tighter. For the first time, he did not look afraid. He looked safe. The patrol raised their weapons. The chamber filled with light, heat, and the smell of ozone. And the traveler stood tall, ready to face them. The chamber burned with white light. The patrol filled the archway, their weapons glowing, their armored boots thundering on the stone. The traveler stood in front of Kyle and his mother, his blade humming faintly in his hand. He looked small compared to the soldiers, fragile compared to their armor. Yet his stance was firm. The lead soldier stepped forward. His visor shone cold blue as his voice cracked through the translator, sharp and merciless. Identify. Why are you here? The traveler's throat was dry, but his voice did not break. I'm here to protect them. The words hung in the chamber like fire. The soldiers tilted their heads, almost confused. Then, without hesitation, the leader gave the order. Remove obstacle. Terminate aliens. The patrol raised their weapons. Beams of light flared to life, ready to burn through flesh and stone. Cale gasped, clutching his mother tighter. His small voice whispered the only word he knew in human tongue. Human, that single word was enough. The traveler roared. His blade ignited, a streak of energy cutting through the dark. He charged forward, faster than the soldiers expected. The first beam fired, grazing his shoulder, but he did not stop. He slammed into the nearest soldier, his blade tearing through armor with a burst of sparks. The chamber exploded into chaos. Blinding light, shouts of command, the crash of steel against stone. The traveler fought with everything he had. His body moved like instinct, every strike fueled by more than survival. It was fury. It was defiance. It was the fire of a human who had chosen to stand for someone else. But 7 soldiers were too many. A blow struck his chest, throwing him back against the wall. Pain burned through him, but he forced himself up again. Another beam sliced past his leg, scorching the stone. He swung his blade, cutting down a second soldier. Sparks flew, armor cracked. The others closed in tighter, weapons humming louder. Cale's cry pierced through the noise. The boy's small hands clutched at his mother, his eyes wide with terror. The traveler's heart pounded. He knew he could not win. Not against all of them. His body was breaking, his strength fading. But winning wasn't the point anymore. The point was to give them a chance. The leader raised his weapon, aiming directly at Cale and his mother. His voice was flat, merciless. End the weak. Time slowed. The traveler saw the boy's eyes, wide, tear-filled, desperate. He saw the mother's pale hand trembling against her son's face. He saw the spark of life that still clung to them, fragile but real. And in that instant, he moved. With every last drop of strength, the traveler threw himself between the patrol and the family. His blade cut through the air, striking the leader's weapon aside. The shot exploded against the ceiling, raining stone and dust. The traveler's voice roared louder than the soldiers' machines. "No!" His blade burned bright, brighter than before, as if it carried not just power but purpose. He fought like a storm, every strike fueled by something the patrol could not understand. Not orders, not fear, not survival, compassion. The soldiers staggered, their formation breaking. For the first time they stepped back, not because of the weapon, but because of the man behind it. The traveler stood tall, blood on his face, his body trembling. He looked like he should have fallen long ago. Yet he stood, because Cale was behind him, because Eris still breathed, because kindness had given him strength, where logic had given only weakness. The leader hesitated. His visor glowed faintly as his machine voice rasped, "Why protect them? They are nothing." The traveler's chest rose and fell with heavy breath. His voice came like thunder. "They are not nothing. They are life. And that is everything." The chamber fell silent. Even the soldiers froze, their weapons aimed but unused. For one strange moment, the weight of his words pressed heavier than any weapon. Behind him, Kyle's voice broke the silence, weak, shaking, but clear. "Thank you, human." The traveler's eyes softened. A faint smile touched his lips, even as his knees threatened to give way. He had done it. Not saved the world, not destroyed an army, but saved one child, one mother, one spark of hope. That was enough. The soldiers stood still, their weapons ready. But none fired. Perhaps it was confusion. Perhaps it was respect. Or perhaps, in that moment, even machines understood what humanity meant. The traveler lowered his blade slowly, but he did not step aside. He remained a shield, a wall of flesh and bone, fragile yet unbroken. Kyle's small hand reached out, clutching his cloak. His eyes, once filled only with fear, now carried something different. Trust. And in that ruined chamber, among hunger, death, and broken stone, a truth was born. The universe could be cruel. It could be merciless. It could strip away all hope. But as long as there was one human willing to stand, one human willing to say no, the darkness would never win completely. Because in the end, strength was not in armor, not in weapons,